Hey, soccer fans and SO peeps, welcome back to Sons of the Pitch Soccer Central. I am Nick here with our founder, our owner, our guy, Mike G, to recap all of the MLS action from the weekend from August 19th to August 21st. Now, Mike, I got to tell you, brother, I'm dragging a little bit. It was a typical Monday at work, lots to do. So I'm hoping you can bring some energy tonight, brother.
I'm hoping so, man. It's been a pretty rough day for myself as well. But you know what? None of that matters right now because I've got about 20, 25 minutes before I got to jet out of here to go pick up another kid. And we're going to make the best of it.
Just living that family life on top of that SOP life. I love to hear it. Well, for everyone listening and watching on YouTube, in the first half, we're going to recap all the games like we do, try and cover a couple headlines that are out there. In the second half, we continue our team profiles, and I thought this was as good a week as any to profile playoff hopeful San Jose Earthquakes. Yeah, maybe playoff hopeful is just a little too strong. Maybe like respectful hopeful is really what San Jose is going for. But we're going to look at them and kind of see their strengths and weaknesses in the second half of the show. And if we got any stoppage time available, we're going to take some questions from our live viewers. But maybe, Mike, maybe this intro music will get me a little pumped up here. So let's kick it off. Well, Mike, the music feels good, and it's already gotten the people inspired in the chat. We already have Hani Mukhtar edits, Red Bull Insider, Dan Geringer, Talk NYCFC, Jay Jardim, and Connor Knows Soccer. We already have a lively chat going on. So hello and thanks to everyone else who has joined us, who will be leaving comments, who is listening on the podcast side of things as well. So if you're following along on the podcast, make sure you find us on YouTube, like the videos, subscribe to the channel, join in the live chats on Monday nights. And if you are listening on YouTube, then join the podcast. Take us wherever you go and wherever you listen to your podcast and rate and review. So with that, we have a lot of games to cover because the results go back till about a week ago, Mike, from a Tuesday night kickoff and a prime time game, if it's a Tuesday night game, can be called that, with LAFC hosting DC United. In a 1-0 victory, LAFC comes away. Did you bet the over on this one, Mike? Did you bet the high goal scoring?
I not only did I bet the over, but I bet the over 4.5 goals, thinking that LAFC was going to lay a touchdown down on a horrible DC United side. But a Tuesday night when we're going to do load management, and apparently they had the attitude of the same attitude I had, figuring they were going to whoop their ass, but they didn't.
Yeah, Bale and Chiellini did not play in this game. They were even rotated to a large part in their next game from over the weekend. So, like I say in the betting videos, like you, as much as LAFC is a favorite, got to look at those starting lineups, definitely. Let's continue running down our schedule with Atlanta defeating Atlanta falling to the New York Red Bulls in some midweek action. Red Bulls get the 2-1 victory on that one. We had New England drawing TFC 2-2 in Toronto. Also, New York City falls to Charlotte at home 3-1. Charlotte trying to keep those playoff hopes alive. Philly goes on the road and loses to Dallas in a cross-conference game. I got to imagine Philly had some rotation in that squad as well. And then Vancouver, big home win 2-1 over the Colorado Rapids. Those were the Wednesday, August 17th games from about half a week ago. And Mike, I think I know the answer to this question, but what game out of that group stood out to you? And what would you like to comment on those?
Well, for one, Charlotte over New York City 3-1 was interesting because Charlotte has been down in the dumps for a while. And to pull out a victory like that is pretty impressive. I didn't see it coming. I don't think many people saw it coming at all. The only saving grace there was that they did play New York City at Red Bull Arena, and we all know that when New York City plays at Red Bull Arena, it's pretty much like worse than an away game. It's not even like a home game. It's just bad. I mean, and there you go. Their results are bad at Red Bull Arena, and they should not be playing there. Yeah, talk NYCFC. There you go. We ain't got to talk about that. Well, it's either that or it's about the week that saw TFC and I can just go ahead and eat my words. I will just go and own my mistake of being such a homer that was all over TFC going to make the playoffs and whatnot. Yeah, that came to an end this week. It's fine. I'll eat it. I always say I will admit when I'm wrong, and I was wrong. But overall with that, those are the two that really stand out to me the most. But also the fact that the Red Bulls go to Atlanta and win. Atlanta is a mess. And even at the point where they're not winning at the Benz, and there's something really wrong with Atlanta when they've got a bad home record.
No doubt about it. And I think I said it in the last week's show that Atlanta is playing like they have a chance to make the playoffs, or at least playing to earn respect. But I think they have no chance to make the playoffs, and they're just going to be spoiler to probably one or two teams in the Eastern Conference because there is such that middle of the table logjam. Atlanta isn't going to leap over 4 or 5 other teams to make the playoffs, but they're definitely going to drag some teams down. As we see that draw that they get over the weekend is just points missed for their opponents. And yeah, like as a Chicago fan, like seeing Chicago get drubbed in the Benz and then have to draw them at home in Chicago, like those are lost points for teams that are desperate to bump up over that playoff line. So to me, Atlanta is going to be playing spoiler. I mean, they've been the villain for a handful of teams since they've joined the league, but I think they're going to be the villain for a lot more teams by the end of this season. Mike, are you taking anything away from New England grabbing 2 at Toronto? To me, this was a bit of a fluke for the Revs, and we'll talk a little bit more about them in their next match as well.
Yeah, I mean the Revs grind. I mean that's Bruce Arena. They grind results. They played a very, very strong game in that game, and Toronto FC, you could just see the lack of depth is the problem there. Number one is the fact that they don't have a number 9. Jesus Jimenez started out the season great, and then hit a wall, and that was a case of strictly not a lot of film out there on the Polish league and where, the team that he was playing for before. Not a ton of stuff to watch on the guy. Well, now after about 10, 12 weeks in MLS, they saw what they were working with and learned how to shut him down. Ayo Akinola has been a shell of his former self. And TFC, these guys are just getting tired. They have no depth at all. And, you've got a team like, Bernadeschi and Insigne, Crescito. These are all guys that did not have any type of offseason. They went straight from, they've been playing for a year and then went straight into another regular season. So, look, I see Talk NYCFC there, DSO, LOL. Toronto fans act like this season doesn't matter after hyping this team up so much. Yes, we are acting that way because we know that we rebuilt our entire team in one season. And not just a regular rebuild. I mean, the entire squad. There's only like 5 games, that are there's only 5 guys that are still on that roster from last season. So, look, we're going to downplay it as much as possible because that's what we do. You make excuses when you lose. But, you're right, DSO. You're right.
Yeah, a couple other quick comments. I love Bernardo Labrada's comment here. He goes, "Is it decision month?" Yeah, it feels like it, right? There's no decision day. Teams need to play well for the next month if they got a shot to make the playoffs. And of course, Jay's comment here, we're going to run our starting 11 into the ground, talking about TFC. Absolutely there. The one thing that jumped out to me in this kind of Wednesday midweek, Mike, was Vancouver getting the win against a decent Colorado team. And I've been waiting for Vancouver to kind of make some noise and maybe make a mini jump up the table, but then they go and blow their next game. So that kind of surprised me that they would have 2 drastically different results in such a short span, but MLS is going to MLS. As we continue down our table, we had Seattle traveling to the LA Galaxy, and it's a 3-3 game. And the league, this is what they wanted, right? Two marquee teams, a huge Friday night matchup, high scoring, 3-3 draw. But for me, Mike, these are two teams that are both trying to turn the corner on their season at the same time and trying to do it through offense. LA bringing in Ricky Push, Seattle trying to regain their old form, get Rui Diaz healthy and back on the pitch. And they did it through offense, but neither of them have been able to address their defensive woes yet in these types of games. So as much fun as it was to see 6 goals, it really doesn't do much for either team for 1 point, especially Seattle, who is on pace to miss the playoffs for the first time since joining Major League Soccer. So you got any takeaways from this kind of game, or should we keep it rolling?
I got one quick takeaway on this one. Seattle, the only reason why it's just a conversation piece. Oh, Seattle might miss the playoffs. Probably not. They're probably still going to make the playoffs. They're 1 point out. All right. And they've got Vancouver ahead of them by 1 point. All right. And Vancouver, to touch back on that Vancouver and Colorado game, Vancouver's a decent home team, horrid away team. Same thing with Colorado. Colorado has 1 win on the road all season. So when you go play on the turf against Vancouver as a decent home team, you're not going to do so hot. But
you're right.
It's overall LA, Seattle. From what I'm seeing out of those two sides is decent teams might make the playoffs, might win a game or two in the playoffs, and that's about it. Neither one of them do I say that's an MLS Cup contender. If I had to lean one towards the other, I would say Seattle, just because of the experience that they have in doing so many times in the past. But that's it.
Yeah. And our friend Bernardo Labrada, our LA Galaxy fan here, wants President Chris Klein out. What it would change things, we don't know, but he wants to try something different. So I'm sure that's the same voice that a lot of LA Galaxy fans have. They need some organizational change, not just coaching and player changes at this point. The way I look at it in MLS and for most professional sports, if you're struggling, you change the players. If you keep struggling, you change the coach or some of the staff. And then if you still are doing that, like year 3 or 4, then you got to start really looking at management, ownership, all that sort of thing, player development, academy level type stuff, development, what's going on there. So LA Galaxy might be approaching that point. We'll see how they do when it comes postseason. But as we move into the weekend games now, we got a lot of crazy results here, Mike. This was, as I dubbed it in the beginning of the video, like, does any team want to make the playoffs? Like, some of these teams had 2 games. These could have been 6-point weeks for them. And then if you want to factor in taking away points from conference opponents, this was a huge week for a handful of teams, and nobody decided to take advantage of it. So Red Bulls and Cincinnati draw 1-1, which, okay, fine. Given both of their places in the Eastern Conference table, maybe it's not the worst result. So I'll leave this one. This will be my exception to nobody wanting to take over the table. But there is some news coming out of FC Cincinnati. First, they signed goalkeeper Evan Luro from the Tampa Bay Rowdies to kind of back up Roman Celentano. By the way, Roman Celentano, Naperville guy, local guy. Happy to see that. But they signed Brandon Vasquez to a deal through 2025 with a club option for 2026. He's already gotten some interest, rumored, from Chivas and from Leeds, go figure, which is a huge gain for a team that only spent $150 in allocation money to get him from Atlanta. So, Mike, what's your take on Brandon Vasquez? I know we haven't talked a lot of USMNT players. We haven't talked a lot about FC Cincinnati striker and what he's done for this team this season. What's your take on Vasquez, and do you think that they're going to flip him before that 2025 season?
I don't know. Vasquez, I mean, let him string it together next year too, and then we'll talk about 2025. Brandon Vasquez, he obviously has talent. He's been highly touted from his days with Atlanta. Never amounted to anything, didn't quite have the playing time because they had guys like Joseph Martinez in front of him, Miguel Almiron, or who down the list, right? I'm with Connor here. You know, I think he's a bit overhyped. It's been a quick run. I mean, yeah, he's having a good season, but the talk that I'm hearing out of USMNT people are, you know, especially in USMNT Twitter, is, oh, he's going to be the answer to our prayers. Like, hey, we need to start him. We need to get him into camp, and he's our starting number 9 going to the World Cup. Hell to the no. Now, can he maybe make the roster? sure. If he's in really good form, since he makes a deep run into the playoffs and, he's lighting it up in the playoffs, yeah, give him a shot. Throw him on the roster. Bring him in the 60th, 70th minute. Is he at the talent level of a Pefok or even a Sargent or Ferreira or Ricardo Pepi? Probably not. Better form? Absolutely. So I say give him a shot into camp, see what he can bring, see if maybe he molds into Berhalter's system and just hits it off. Then we'll talk about it. But everybody thinking that this guy is going to be unbelievable for the future, slow your roll. Let's see some consistency here.
Yeah, it's the same people who said Josh Sargent was going to be the answer to he's
Right.
terrible to Josh Sargent's the answer again. It's that same kind of chatter. The only thing that it confirms for me is we don't have a really, really good or a really, really consistent striker in the men's national team pool. But along those lines, why not Brandon Vasquez? So I'm with you. Like, bring him to camp. Maybe
Right.
he's not the starting striker for the men's national team, but bring him to camp. He could be a game changer off the bench, or if we're already up 2-0 on Wales early, yeah, throw him in. Save those legs for whoever your starter is for the England game, right? Maybe if it's a throwaway game against Iran in the third game, start Vasquez, right? Save some legs. But nobody's really earned that spot, but he's definitely earned a call up. I want to quickly shout out to brother BKL for jumping in on the chat. Great to have you with us, as well as Mia Mendez. Thank you for joining us all the way from Portugal. Great to see you in the chat as always. As we continue to roll down the results, we had Philadelphia traveling to DC. Not a far road trip, but technically an away game, and they hang 6-0 on DC United. And I think this pretty much sums up the season for both of these teams. Philly's really good, and they show it. DC is not, and they show it in these kind of games. Speaking really quickly on DC, I'm a big fan of Taxi Fountas. You guys know my Greek heritage and my affinity for mentioning Greek players as much as I can on the USL or in the MLS as well as USL if I know it. I'm wondering if playing him as a winger is a good choice. The last couple games they played a 4-3-3. I think he was doing a lot better either as a lone striker or maybe as a 4-4-2 type of thing that I thought Rooney was going to come in and play. It's hard to see him not scoring goals, and I know he's frustrated. So something to keep an eye on with Rooney is how he's going to use a DP striker who is already in double digits this season but hasn't scored, I think, in 4 weeks or something like that. As we continue down, we've got Montreal just rolling the Revs 4-0. And as we mentioned in the comments, thank you all. Jordy Mihailovic wasn't playing in this game, and they still get 4. Kyoto gets 2. Miljevic gets the 4th one in stoppage time. But the story out of here is Kai Kamara, with his goal in this game, moves up to 3rd on the MLS all-time scoring list behind Landon Donovan in 2nd and Chris Wondolowski in 1st. I think he's about 10 off of Donovan, so he could move into that 2nd spot. I doubt he catches Wondo. I think he's about 30 behind him. But Mike, you've watched a lot of MLS in your day. You've seen a lot of Kai Kamara all over the place, man. What is your take on Kai Kamara? Where does he fit in the pantheon of all-time MLS greats?
He's in the discussion of all-time MLS strikers and goal scorers, but like all of those guys on that list, none of them are big names outside of maybe Keane from the Galaxy, but Landon Donovan, dude, come on, look at the names on those lists. Wondolowski, Jeff Cunningham, these old school players. Kai Kamara has spent, I don't even know how many years in the league. And that's the fact. I mean, how many teams does that man play?
16 years in the league.
15. Okay. So I think he's played for at least 6 or 7 clubs, if not more.
Probably more.
He scores goals. He gets goals. He had 2 or 3 very good seasons where he was up at the leaderboard for the Golden Boot, but it's that length and consistency. The fact that the guy was a squad player and he's bagging 6 or 7 goals for Colorado, in a season. That is why he is where he is. He's in that discussion. Is he the best striker, best goal scorer? No, not even close. But he's in that talk. with the rest of those guys. I want to touch on Philadelphia, because this is a team who has been at the top of the Eastern Conference all year. And I can't wrap my head around that. So let's finish up our talk about Kamara, and then I want to talk a little bit about Philadelphia, because I need some education here, because Philadelphia on paper sucks.
Well, to finish up Kamara, his first season in the league was back in 2006 with the Crew.
That's before I started watching MLS. I started watching MLS in 2007.
That's before a lot of people did anything with MLS, that's for sure. But he started with the Crew in 2006, Kansas City and Houston in 2008, went back to Kansas City in 2009, spent a long part of his career there, went back to the Crew in 2014, New England and Columbus in 2016, New England in 2017, Vancouver 2018, Colorado 2019, the Loons of Minnesota and the Colorado Rapids in 2020, and now with Montreal in 2022. So he's been Eastern Conference, Western Conference, like original team, expansion club. I mean, there's something to be said from consistency, but if we sort his stats here by goals, his best goal scoring season was back in 2015, where he had 22 goals and 8 assists in the 2015 season for the Crew. Didn't even win MVP that year. He's had 6 total double-digit goal-scoring seasons as well. His worst, couple years were early on, and probably some injury seasons as well. So I'm with you. I don't know if I'd put him as one of the all-time MLS greats, because you look at guys like a Donovan or like a Cunningham or, like you said, Keane, or some of those early players who just transformed the league. But man, if you just need to bring a guy in to help, fill out the back end of your roster at this point in time, yeah, go for it. Go for it. So, Mike, you wanted to talk about Philly here. Let me know what you want to talk about. What do you think?
Well, I want to look at the roster. I mean, and talk about this team as a serious threat to win an MLS Cup, because this is, I mean, they've been top of the East all year. They're putting up 6 spots, 7 spots against the shitty teams, which is what you're supposed to do. Julian Carranza and Ure up top, those are not big time players. All right. Ure, I don't know what his career was like in Europe, wherever he was at, but Carranza couldn't do a damn thing for Miami. But he's got talent. Gazdag, okay, decent talent from Europe. Bedoya, trash. He's old. He's done. He's way past his prime. McGlynn, youngster, but a homegrown kid. Nothing, I'm not like thinking this kid's going to be, the next superstar here. Jose Martinez, good CDM, very good CDM. Kai Wagner, definitely. One of the best wingbacks in the league. And how long he'll be here, we don't know. Elliot, Lesnes, Mbazo, Andre Blake. The only thing I can see here is consistency in the fact that they've been together for a long time. The core of this squad has been together for probably 5 years or so. And under the same coach, that kind of makes sense. I just can't take Philadelphia seriously. If you put Philadelphia up against a team like, I don't know, LAFC, are they going to win? No. If you put a team like that, put them up against a team like Seattle, Portland, I'm not going, that's a win. No way. That's a guarantee. I just, any game when I'm looking at my betting picks, even though I did pick them to beat DC, very rarely does it happen that I'm like, yes, Philadelphia's got the win. I'm like, maybe a draw. They're just not that good of a team. Why is Philadelphia winning so much? Why are they a good team?
So I pulled up here their lineup against DC, their latest matchup, right? And like you said, you've got Carranza up front with Ura. And you're right, none of these names jump off of the page at you. I mean, Andre Blake is probably like the biggest name, especially for his position here. Jamaica's starting goalkeeper, one of the best in MLS over the last several seasons. So if you want to talk about why they're so good, start in the back, right? Start with their goalkeeper, start with Andre Blake. You've got Jacob Glesnes and Elliott here playing as your center backs, right? Those guys are solid center backs. Smart guys, not a lot of mistakes. Maybe they are not, bone-crushing tacklers or guys who are going to go up and knock a few in off of set pieces or really push forward like we've seen Walker Zimmerman do, like we've seen Rafa Chihos do on occasion for the Chicago Fire. But solid guys. And last weekend I profiled the Philadelphia Union. So if you want to know more about the Union, go back and watch the last video I did. And you'll see that the Union's center backs and their defensive midfielders are very, very good at intercepting passes, reading the game. I think they rank in the top 10 maybe or top 20 of intercepted passes in the league. So Philly starts in the back with those players forming kind of that central part of their defense there. But as you move forward, I mean, Bedoya, I get, man, he's 35. That's not as old as it used to be, Mike. But, I'm definitely feeling my age, and I'm a few years past 35. So I don't know how Bedoya's doing it or how, like, Johnny Bornstein's doing it here in Chicago, man. But the fact is he can still run it out there. And his leadership is what I think he's more so on the field for rather than any sort of his spectacular play. So we've got the solid defense. We've got a leader and a captain in Bedoya. And then you've got goal scorers. Maybe they're not highlight reels. Maybe they are not, bangers from 30 yards out or fancy bicycle kicks. But Philly moves the ball up the field. They know how to play in possession. So they're creating high expected goals for their strikers. They're putting them in good spots. You put all that together against an Eastern Conference who just can't figure out who wants to make the playoffs this season. That's how you end up beating bad teams 6 and 7-0 and beating the good teams by 2 or 3 goals, like they did against. I'm not going to call them a good team, but they beat a informed team, Chicago, last week 4-1, and they're rolling here, Mike. The only competition I see with Philly in the Eastern Conference right now are your top few teams, right? New York City can break them down in possession, maybe. Red Bulls can outpress them into turnovers. But if they can get by those kind of systemic opponents, what's not to say they can't beat LAFC? I mean, that would be the matchup I would want to see at this point. LAFC Philly, best team in the East versus the best team in the West, and let's get it in the MLS Cup final. So there's your nutshell Philadelphia Union. But you're right, man. No names jump off the bench. Oh, by the way, youth and a solid system has been the recipe for their success, right? You have young players who come up through their system who are ready to play for Philadelphia's Jim Curtin because they've been trained in what he wants to do for like 3 or 4 years, So they're ready. They understand their role, and that definitely helps them with their depth. So they've got depth. They've got a solid defense, and they've got some good goal scorers up front. There you go, man. That's everything I can say about.
I mean, it just scares the hell out of me that they get knocked out of the playoffs early. That's been their MO. And in the East, luckily, I mean, you're right. In the East, it's so jumbled in the East. I mean, we don't know who's going to finish in the top 7. I can pretty much tell you now that TFC, Chicago, Atlanta are not going to make the playoffs. But Charlotte, Cincy, New England, Columbus, Miami, Orlando, on any given night, I feel like one of those teams could beat Philly in Philly. But I think the East really comes down to one of the 3 top teams, either Philly, Montreal, or New York City, just based on the amount of talent that those teams have. I don't see an Orlando making a run. I don't see a Red Bulls making a run. And Miami, everybody's really overhyped about Miami right now because they shut down TFC, which they did play extremely well, and that defense was fantastic. But Miami's not a playoff team. They're not. They don't have the caliber of players for that. That's a new team since Pozuelo got in, and if Pozuelo is going to take your team to the next level, you saw how well that worked for TFC, right? So I digress. Let's finish off these results.
Yeah, I'd say Miami has a little bit better of a defense than Toronto does, but you're right. Flipping over to the Western Conference results, since you covered that Miami TFC game very nicely, Mike. Minnesota hosted Austin. Again, this is one of those games where I'm like, bet the over. Nope, Minnesota wins 2-1 at home. The Loons are for real, Mike. Do we need to talk about them in that same kind of Philly? Is this a team that could go to an MLS Cup, or is it just too much for them to beat Austin and LAFC and the like in the West?
String it together. Again, I can't take anyone seriously until you prove to me over a longer stretch than what I've seen out of these clubs. I mean, Minnesota, yeah, they've had a great 4 or 5 game run. Yes, so did TFC. And look at them now. All right, 2 or 3 bad results for Minnesota, and they're right back in the doldrums and out of it. So,
all right, we'll see how they finish the season. That's fair. I want to quickly run through these last couple of results. Colorado draws Houston 1-1 at home. Solid result for Houston. I was writing in the pre-show notes like, hey, maybe this is kind of a turning point for Houston to kind of build some decent results and maybe get some culture going for the future. But Houston's next 3 games are at Minnesota, against the LAFC, and at Seattle. So I don't think Houston's going to use this as a jumping off point for anything. Vancouver ends up going to Salt Lake and drawing 1-1. San Jose with the surprise result of the weekend, defeating LAFC in San Jose. Cowell with a banger of a goal. Tommy Thompson playing really well. We're going to talk about San Jose in the second half of this show. And then Sunday, Chicago falls at home to New York City. The Crew draw Atlanta 2-2. Orlando travel up to Charlotte and come away with a 2-1 win. That surprised me. I didn't think Orlando had, their offense is struggling. I didn't think they had 2 goals in them, let alone to go to Charlotte, who's coming off of a decent result. Then Kansas City, again, 4-1 victors over Portland. I don't know where Kansas City is finding goals all of a sudden. And Portland doesn't want to go to the playoffs if they're going to lose to Kansas City. Then Nashville stomps Dallas 4-0 in Nashville. Mike, what stands out to you on these Sunday games? Is it going to shape the playoffs? Like, what do you think here?
For me, what stands out is the 2-1 victory for Orlando over Charlotte. Charlotte was hot. They're in good form. Orlando then just shows up and beats them 2-1. A shocking result. Same thing with Kansas City over Portland. Did I have this as a guaranteed Portland win? Absolutely not. Did I see the draw happening? Maybe. Kansas City maybe at home, but 4-1, it was convincing. Impressive result there from Kansas City. Maybe a little bit too little too late for them, but a great result. And then Nashville. Nashville is a very good team that went through a rough stretch. I mean, everybody is so, and Hani Mukhtar edits, and some other Tennessee, natives and fans there. Like, I got to get a big shout out here to Ghetto Crypto, their first time catching a live from Tennessee. Welcome, Ghetto Crypto. Smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. You're going to love the content here on Sons of the Pitch Soccer Central. And Nashville's a very good team. They have a very strong defense. Gary Smith is a very good coach, even though everybody's been on his ass lately. And a result like this, 4-0 over Dallas, that's what they can do. This team can score goals. They are very one-dimensional. If they do open that up a little bit with Schaffelberg on the wing, that's going to help a lot, that speed. But Nashville, I don't know, man. I got a soft spot in my heart for them. I picked them to go to MLS Cup final this year. I mean, we don't want to talk about my prediction of Nashville and Toronto FC, but did I just say that? But anyways, Nashville's a good squad. Some surprising results on the Sunday, but the Fire in New York City, man, come on, Fire. What the hell's going on?
I guess we got to go to a game then, Mike. That's what we'll have to do.
I guess so.
We'll just have to get out there. Let them know how we feel. I'm with you. That Nashville, like, we know how good Nashville is. You want to talk about a good team on paper versus a bad team on paper with Philly, right? We know how good Nashville is on paper. I think they're finally starting to work in Schaffelberg and Shaq more now and let them kind of flow with the regular players. But I'm shocked Dallas couldn't get one, considering how their offense is. To me, Dallas is the team who's going to, like, maybe the first top team out in the playoffs, man, if they lose that first game, because they can't score more than 1 goal in a playoff game. But with that is our weekly recap. Mike, you got any final thoughts before we get into our halftime break?
Final thoughts is just buckle your seatbelts, y'all. It's going to be a fun finish. It's going to be a fun end of the season. There are a lot of teams in contention for these playoff spots, and the playoffs are going to be a lot of fun too, because everybody's kind of on that LAFC train, the hype train for them, but
which is fair.
It's a wide open out there, man. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see an MLS Cup final of, like, I don't know, like No, I was going to say New York Red Bulls, but that'll never happen. Maybe like an Orlando against a Dallas, right? I mean, this is something that could happen. Will it happen? Probably not. But that's my final thoughts on this one. It's been fun, Nick. Good luck with the second half of the show, man. I got to jet and go pick up a kid like 28, 30 minutes away from here. Ridiculous. 3 nights a week. It's driving me crazy,
man.
But it's been a lot of fun. We'll be on hopefully for another live at some point, next week or the week after. I have no idea. Whenever it fits into the schedule. And, it probably won't even be a TFC game because now they suck and they're not making the playoffs. So anyways, with that, guys, have a great night. We'll see you guys soon.
Awesome. Thanks, brother. Glad you could jump on and join us for the weekly recap. So first of all, I want to say hey to GPV10 for jumping in on the chat. Great to have you with us. We are going to take our brief halftime break so you guys can go get a refill, grab a snack, hit the head if you need to, relieve yourself if you may. Grab a Skira Icelandic spring water, quench those vocal cords, quench your thirst. But if you are on the podcast side of things, stay tuned. You're going to hear the Chicago Fire breakdown from a good friend of ours, longtime supporter of the show, John Donovan. He's covering all things Fire for us here on SOP Soccer Central. And if you are on the podcast side of things, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, turn on those notifications, as Mike said, so you can join some of our live watch-alongs that Mike is going to be doing as we get into towards the end of the season here. For everyone on the YouTube channel, we're going to be back in just about a minute. So thank you all for staying with us. We're going to do our San Jose Earthquakes profile, and then we'll let you know my prediction for them for the end of the season right after this. All right, SO peeps and soccer fans, we are back. I want to say thank you, as always, to Skira Icelandic Spring Water, who's been sponsoring Sons of a Pitch for the last several years, at least going 4 years back now. And thank you to John Donovan as well, one of just the longest supporters that we've had on the show. Always great to hear from him, especially his Chicago Fire recaps, the passion that he brings to it. Thank you, John. Thank you to Skira Icelandic Spring Water, available at your local 7-Eleven. And if anyone from Skira is listening, my wife's planning a little anniversary trip for us in the near future to Iceland. So if there's any way we can go get a tour of the bottling plant, let me know. If you need me to check in on things, we can go take care of that for you. But now let's take a quick look at the standings and see where all these teams are shaking out that we've just been talking about. In the East, Philadelphia is on top with 51 points. Then Montreal, New York City, and New York Red Bull round out the top 4. We have Orlando, Miami, and Columbus that hold down those last 3 playoff spots. Columbus is just 1 point above New England Revolution, who are in 8th, followed by Cincy, Charlotte, Toronto, Chicago, Atlanta, and sad trombone, DC United. Really quick, 5th place Orlando is on 36 points. And 13th place, Atlanta is on 30 points. That's how tight the East is. 6 points are separating it. And as a quick reminder, in MLS, if there is a tie on points, first tiebreaker is wins. Second tiebreaker is goal differential. So keep that in mind, and your teams need to keep that in mind, that they don't sit on their laurels and try to defend a 1-goal lead, that they go out and try and bang a few more in if they're in these tight goal differential races. Because of all those teams we just talked about, 5 through 13, the only team that has a positive goal differential is Columbus. Every team in the East, from the 5th place to the 13th, from the 5th to the bottom, is on a negative goal differential. So Columbus is going to own most tiebreakers if teams end up, with the same amount of wins, which is very likely because there's 5 of them who have 8 wins right now. Now, in the Western Conference, we have LAFC, who is the first team to clinch a playoff spot this season. They got the X next to their name. They have 57 points. Austin, Dallas, and Minnesota, 2 through 4. Real Salt Lake, Nashville, and the LA Galaxy just sneaking in above the playoff line. They're the 5 through 7 teams right now. And on the outside looking in, Vancouver, Seattle, Portland, and Colorado are all on 34, 33, 33, and 32 points. But similar to the Eastern Conference, 5th place is 38 points. 11th place is 32 points. So you have 7 teams vying for 3 spots in the West. Meanwhile, in the East, you have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 teams vying for 3 spots over there. So with that, now that you know where everything stands, we're going to take a look at a team who may not affect that playoff race individually, but maybe steal a few points from some of those other teams, the San Jose Quakes. San Jose has been such an enigma all season to me. I always say on the betting videos, I have no confidence in my picks with the San Jose team because one day they'll go out and they'll lose 2-1, then they'll win 5-4, then they'll draw 3-3, then they'll lose 1-0. Like, they are so inconsistent. And as a result of that, and hopefully as a result of the organization aspiring more than just being exciting to watch and maybe getting into the playoff conversation, they actually want to change the culture and start building towards winning teams and winning trophies, or at least developing solid players and developing great MLS teams. So with that, let's take a look at the Quakes profile. They're coming off a 2-1 victory over LAFC, which is probably the marquee win for them this season. They're currently at 6 wins, 11 losses, and 9 draws on 27 points. So barely over 1 point per game, 1.04 points per game. And if you typically want to make the playoffs, you got to be up around, 1.5 or so. Let's go back and take a look at these standings here. Right now, the playoff line is between 1.3 and 1.4 points in the East, and between 1.25 and 1.36 in the Western Conference. So you want to be at least around that 1.3, 1.4 points per game when you're getting into the playoffs. San Jose also is they're ahead of their expected goals, which is surprising, right? Considering they've had such inconsistent play. They've scored 42, they've allowed 54, but they've only been expected, if you follow the models, to score 35 goals and give up 48. So not only are they exceeding their goals scored, they're exceeding their expected goals allowed. So that's not exactly the recipe for winning soccer. But despite all that, they have some pieces that they can build around. And the first piece we have to talk about is Jeremy Ebobisse, their striker, who is currently 5th in the Golden Boot race with 14 goals scored and 1 assist. And I will point out, I know people like to point out PKs shouldn't count. I'm not in that camp myself. You still got to step up. You still got to score it. There's still a goalie to beat, and there's still opposing mind games that they play with you. He only has 1 PK goal. So he's got 13 non-penalty kick goals on the season, plus 1 PK for a total of 14. This is a great pickup when they got him from Portland a couple seasons ago. And in an interview with MLS Extra Time this season, Ebobisse even said that getting back to his natural striker position has really helped his game. That he had to have that adjustment last season with the Quakes, learning how players on the wing are going to send him the ball, and they got to learn how he likes to receive it. But now that he's playing not on the wing, and he's actually getting into some dangerous spaces and using some of his strength and his off-the-ball movement, he can find the back of the net more consistently. So that's been really good for Ebobisse. He's also got 2 goals off of headers this season, so he's a little bit better than most people think in the air. Now, what's interesting is looking at the website FBref, FBREF.com, they do player comparisons. They're still tweaking it. It's not perfect, but they do player comparisons based on your league and based on your position over the last year, 365 days. Not last season, not current season, but the last 365 days. And the players that he is most comparable to from a statistical standpoint, and it's not just goals, assists, expected goals, key passes. Like, they get into touches, passing percentage, like a lot of advanced statistics. There's probably like 15 or 20 metrics they look at in these comparisons. Jeremy Ebobisse actually is most compared to Raul Ruidiaz, Brenner, Joseph Martinez, Ronaldo Cisneros, and Javier Chicharito Hernandez. Not terrible. Not terrible. Those are the 5 players that compare with him the most. But the next 5 players, Adrian Hunu, who's not in the league anymore, Rubio Rubin, Salt Lake, Bobby Woods, Salt Lake, Robert Baric, not in the league anymore, and Karl Swiderski, maybe a few of those names you don't want to be associated with. So Jeremy's Ebobise's got a lot more to prove and a lot more to do with that. So let's take a couple comments here because we got some great comments coming in on the chat about San Jose here. GBP10 says, it's a roller coaster. Talk NYCFC says, what the hell? 42 goals scored? Yeah, they believe it or not. They bagged 42. And he also says, thank you for this. Penalty kicks in the modern game are so underrated. And you're right. Just because you have a shot from 12 yards out doesn't mean it's automatic. Well put, Talk NYCFC. And like we said, there's so much that goes into it now. You have designated penalty takers. You have goalies that are researching it. You even got goalies who are writing like tendencies of the shooters on their water bottles so they have it. Some teams are even bringing in goalies as penalty kick specialists because we've seen how that can affect playoff games, right? So there's a lot more that goes into PKs than people think. So I like that. Real quick, wanted to say, Zara Ashkanani, thank you for joining us again. Our Bayern Munich fan who's just learning more and more about the league. So I'm really glad you're jumping in when we do these team profiles. Definitely go back and check out some profiles of teams in the past. And thank you. We're almost at 15 likes on the video. So let's everyone hit that like button and send the link out to your friends and family as well. Let's get a little advertising going on here. So thank you, Zara, for that as well. Now to continue our talk of San Jose, not only do they have a really good striker in Ebombise, who's only making $767,000 in total compensation this season, as the fifth highest paid player on the team. I also noticed his pressing numbers are a lot, so they're definitely using him as kind of that first defender as well. So having a good season, having a breakout season, he's got himself back into that USMNT conversation as well. I don't think so, but a lot of people want to see it happen. Outside of Ebombise, they have some young talent as well. They have 4 players under 22 on their senior roster, according to FBref.com. And I bet there's a few more guys in their system they could bring up as well. But only 2 of them have gotten minutes this season, Cade Cowell and Nico Tsakiris. Cade Cowell, the 18-year-old attacking mid-winger who has 23 appearances in 10 starts this season. Dude, this guy, you got to watch him. His goal was spectacular, taking it off the volley, putting it top shelf. Fantastic finish by Cade Cowell, and that's a taste of the talent that he has. He is, like, physically, he's a grown man at 18, and he is physically just fine in MLS and should be in some other leagues around the world. He definitely can afford to bulk up a little bit if he's going to be facing a lot of those experienced as well as bigger physical defenders, assuming he makes a move overseas, which I think he will. He's too good of a talent. He's actually valued at $5.5 million on Transfer Market's website. So he's probably going to be making a move, and San Jose is probably going to be reinvesting that money into their academy and into some young players. But as much as he showed he's got the talent, that he can strike and find the back of the net, that he's physically fit, that he can run at defenders and run behind defenders and make some really good slashing runs. What he needs to work on right now is his on-the-ball dribbling technical ability as well as some of his passing. He's definitely shown flashes in one-on-one, and he's definitely shown the ability to put a ball in the box, especially the handful of assists that he has this season. But he needs to really fine-tune that if San Jose is going to be demanding $10 million for him rather than the $5 million that Transfer Market currently values him at. We also got to mention Nico Tsakiris. I'm assuming he's Greek, and that's not the only reason why he's getting some love right now. He is a 17-year-old midfielder with 4 appearances on the season. This is his first year as a pro, so there's not much to say from a scouting perspective, but keep an eye on him. He played for the U.S. U20s that just won the CONCACAF championship this year, and Transfer Market has him valued at $275,000, but you give him a couple seasons. He has a good run of form in the Olympics with the U20s, assuming he makes the squad, and he becomes a regular starter for a San Jose team that maybe he's on the up. I could see that number doubling or tripling over the next season or two for him. As some trivia as well, his father actually played for the Rochester Rhinos for a few seasons back in USL. And the last player I want to mention, as we're approaching, the hour mark here, JT Marcinkowski, San Jose's goalkeeper, right? He has been just hung out to dry on so many occasions, and I really want to just give him some credit for sticking with it, for staying between those posts for so long. Like, I've tweeted it out from the SOP account, like, Feeling bad for Marcinkowski this week. You know, it's not really on the goalkeeper when your defenders are giving up shots from inside the 6 or from inside the PK spot. There's only so much he can do. The only problem is, per FB Ref, he is comparable to DC and Toronto's goalkeeping tandems that they've had over the years. So not guys that you want to be compared to, right? We've seen the struggles that Bono and Westberg have had for TFC. And we've also seen, you know, Hamid get benched in DC and then Romo get replaced by Ochoa. They had to go outside the organization and trade for Ochoa. So those are the kind of keepers he's statistically being compared with. But I think it's a little bit more of a bad defense than it is his shot-stopping abilities. He is above average when it comes to pulling in crosses, is middle of the pack on save percentage. But he's also, if you look at his numbers, his touches and his passing numbers, he's being asked to play with his feet, probably bailing out some of that defense. So that doesn't help him focus on setting the defense, on getting into good position to stop shots, and, you know, they're probably getting countered attack quite a bit. But I expect that he'll be the starter for the next couple seasons. His contract is up in 2024. As they rebuild the field players, they need a guy like that to stick around. Besides, he's only 25, so he can play a few more seasons and still have some value if they decide to move him. Last thing to say about San Jose is their new coach. They just announced this week, Luchi Gonzalez is going to take over in January after he finishes his assistant coaching tenure with the USMNT and the World Cup in December. Matias Almeyda, they had a lot of high hopes for him. He definitely had them playing exciting, like watchable, maybe not watchable, but you wanted to tune in and see what was going on with San Jose over the last 4 seasons or so. But they bring in Luchi Gonzalez. If you don't know MLS, get to know Luchi Gonzalez, because you're going to hear his name a lot in the future. He was Dallas's academy director from 2012 to 2018. So a lot of those young players who got sold to Europe, he helped recruit and develop. He was the manager for Dallas, the head coach from 2018 to 2021, but wasn't getting the results that ownership wanted. So they said, thank you, no thank you. And then he got picked up by Berhalter and has been an assistant since 2021. Like I said, when the World Cup's over, he'll take over starting in January. So you're going to see a huge difference in style. Almeida's man-marking defense is out. And from what the guys on the MLS have been saying, is that they're already trying to implement some of Luchi's style with a lot of that possession and stringing together passes in the final third in the dangerous areas. As we saw these goals, that Cade Cowell goal in this last goal is the specific example of it, right? Get into an area around kind of the outskirts of the box and then play cutback balls or little chips over some of the near post defenders and let your strikers run onto it. Let those second runners coming in late from the midfield run onto it. So let's look for the Quakes to adjust their tactics to play like that. But really, this move is going to be developing the San Jose Academy, establishing a pipeline through MLS Next and MLS Next Pro, bringing in local talent because we know California's got tons of soccer talent, and allowing that to filter into the senior club as well as selling it off and bringing in some money back into the organization. I hope that Luchi really does well as a head coach and can win something, but I don't see San Jose winning anything in the next 3 or 4 years or so. And honestly, I'm worried he might get pigeonholed as kind of that like development guy. Like clubs like a San Jose are going to bring him in, or maybe some new expansion clubs are going to bring him in and help them set up the academy, help up their youth system, help them get established an identity and how to play the latest, greatest kind of style, and then dismiss him, 3-4 years into his tenure. I hope that's not his kind of fate. I hope he doesn't get pigeonholed into that. But I don't know if he can win, right? He hasn't proven that yet as a head coach. Dallas didn't want to wait it out and see if he could. So that's my worry, and that's my thought on Luchi Gonzalez as the head coach of San Jose. Going forward, though, they're 7 points off the line. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this season. I really doubt it. They're too inconsistent, too many teams ahead of them to jump. But the goal, like I said, organize, evaluate players, and figure out who's your core that you're going to build around for the next 3-4 seasons, who you're going to bring up and develop into Academy, MLS Next Pro guys. Tommy Thompson could be one of those. Jeremy Ebobisse is definitely one of those guys. Then let's let Luchi come in and work his magic and see what San Jose does, and they can reevaluate in a few more seasons. So let's take a few more comments here, and then we can go ahead and maybe take a couple of general questions from the chat. I love that eSuper1 says that entire team is pigeonholed as a bottom dweller for life. Oh, that's tough to hear if you're a Quakes fan, especially looking at those 2 stars above their patch from when they won those 2 titles back in the day. But he does say they need new ownership. And we'll see if Lucci comes in and he's shown the door in a couple seasons and that kind of building project falls flat on their face, then yeah, they definitely need new ownership. Now, maybe ownership had a wake-up call. I'm not in with San Jose in any sort of way, so we'll see if you guys know any insight about San Jose's ownership, and maybe they are having a change of heart or maybe a change of wallet. If that's the case, we'll see if anything does change. Brother BKL says San Jose needs a new front office if they're going to rebuild this team, and I'm hoping Gonzalez has that kind of influence and pull, that he can say, look, man, I've been around the league. I have been with the U.S. national team. I know it works. Listen to me. I'll give you a new academy in a year or two. You give me a contract extension and some players in year 3, and then we'll make a run at it. So that's what I'm hoping. Talk NYCFC says San Jose will only get to the playoffs as a 7th seed in the next few years. So it's hard at this point to argue against that point, but we'll see if Lucci can work any sort of magic with them. We'll see. They've got some talent. We've talked about their roster. It's just a matter of how they're going to build around it now. We had Brother BKL earlier saying, congrats to LAFC as the first team to reach the playoffs in MLS. And Talk NYCFC responds right away, we don't congratulate LAFC. I love it. I love the East-West rivalry there from anybody. So with that, I want to thank everyone who's jumped into the chat. We got to see some great new names. eSuper, GBP10. I haven't had a chance to talk with you, so it's great to have you here. Some of our just regular guys and supporters. Thank you, Talk NYCFC, Brother BKL, Hani Mukhtar Edits, Hani Mukhtar Stan, formerly. Red Bull Insider. Great to have Ghetto Crypto jump on. Jay Jardim, thanks for being with us earlier. Mia Mendes, Connor No Soccer, everyone else. Dan Geringer, Bernardo Labrada, thank you all for joining us tonight live with your comments, with your questions, for a lively chat. And you know what? If you guys think of anything later, come on back after the video has been archived here as an actual video. Leave some actual comments in the comment section, and we'll continue the conversation about San Jose, about the weekly results, about LAFC as a team we don't want to congratulate, but is on pace to be the best team in regular season history. Take that for whatever it's worth. 8-9 games left in the season. But thank you to everyone. If you want to continue to support the show and not just, enjoy the conversation with everyone, leave a super chat during these live visits. You can also leave a super thanks once the video has been recorded and posted. We appreciate the financial support. We put it right back into the show. It's not going into my pocket. It's not going into my kids' soccer cleats. That's something I'm working for. But we reinvest it, and we're building a new website right now. We're looking to do some writing, get some new graphics as we approach the World Cup and expand our coverage into the World Cup, as well as maybe in Liga MX, some more Canadian Premier League stuff. So make sure to support the show. If you want to do it on a sponsorship level, our DMs are open on Twitter at SOP Soccer, as well as via email, podcast@sonsofapitchsoccer.com or sonsofapitchsoccer@gmail.com. So we appreciate your support with the likes, the subscriptions, the joining the channel. You can even join as a subscriber to the channel for a few bucks every month and get some private chat with Mike if you like what he has to say, and who doesn't. I love it. That's why we do the show together. Or again, the chat, the liking, the subscribing, the following on the Twitter, the sharing the links, the driving the algorithms to get us more attention here. Like, since I've been back running the weekly recaps over the last 3 months or so, we've picked up another 100, 150 subscribers. So you guys are doing it. You guys are driving the growth of soccer here through conversation. We love to see it. We even got Mountie jumping on. CF Montreal on top. Allez. Yes. Love the energy. You know what? I was dragging before, but because of you guys, I'm just feeling the energy. I'm feeling rejuvenated. I'm probably going to go log in and get like another hour of work done. Maybe I'll clean the house. Who knows? But I thank you all from the bottom of my little soccer heart here. You guys have been great. We'll be back on Wednesday with our picks and predictions video, and then another live chat next Monday, recapping all things this upcoming weekend. So thank you all for watching. Thank you to Skira Icelandic Spring Water and John Donovan, our biggest supporters and sponsors of the show. We appreciate all you do for us. Everyone, enjoy the week. Hey, SOP fans. I wanted to quickly continue my post-credit series here. Took a little page out of the Marvel Avengers movies, saved one little tidbit for the post-credit scene here. Wanted to show off, I'm still on jersey mode here. Wanted to show off, dude, this awesome throwback jersey. The blue screen might be getting to it on the video, but here we go. Hellenic College, circa 1982, 83 maybe. Got the little cannon going on over here. I don't even know what manufacturer that is. Let me see what the let's see. Peter Green Limited, Westchester, Pennsylvania. I don't even know if that company's still in business. Anyone want to Google it and shoot me a message? So we got Hellenic College, which is the college that feeds into the Greek Orthodox Seminary out in Brookline, Massachusetts. And check this collar out on these things, man. Like wide V-neck, crazy collar. Love it. Got the number 6, the long sleeve jersey. This is not only is this just an incredible throwback jersey from some lower division college team, it's very important. It's my dad's jersey. It's something that he handed down to me a long time ago when I was really getting into the sport and into the game. And so shout out to my dad, Ted Pateris, playing soccer, representing Proviso High School here in the Chicago suburbs, then went on to play for Triton College and then Hellenic College, where he finished up his degree. So shout out to my dad and a little bit of American soccer history. As we know, soccer was really started in this country by the immigrants, and the Greeks were definitely among them. So he kept that going, and I'm trying to do my part here. So everyone, thanks again. Happy to share that with you all, and enjoy the rest of your week.